I'm excited to welcome you on behalf of Technologent and powered by our partner NetBrain. So thank you, NetBrain, for being here. We appreciate you taking the time to be with us. Today's webinar is all about exploring the value of continuous network assessment, the associated observability and governance that goes along with that, why it matters, how it ties into the broader industry trends, and the role it plays in building smarter, more resilient infrastructures that are much needed in today's modern enterprise. Next slide, please. As we look at our agenda, we're going to be covering a couple high-level areas here, but we're going to start with a Technologent overview, who we are, what we do. We're going to get into industry trends, right? What's driving change in the industry today. We're going to talk about why continuous assessment is becoming a priority for the enterprise. We're going to talk about network infrastructures and the challenges we're seeing. We're going to talk about the assessments and why intelligence, automation, and intelligence reporting is much needed. And then we're going to close out with a live NetBrain demo. So thank you again for being on here. I do want to ask everybody to make this interactive, right? Please feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout the session. We'll have some time at the end to address them, or we'll address them as we see them as well. So with that said, let's get right into the next slide here. So quick background on Technologent for those of you that are probably not familiar with us, right? We're a global system integrator with over 23 years of experience helping enterprises accelerate digital transformation. What makes us different is the fact that we align business strategy and technology together, right, to bring you the best outcome. We're focused in four particular pillars that are our core value, which is data, cloud, security, and intelligence. These four pillars are the heart of everything we do across the enterprise with our clients to drive enterprise modernization and business outcomes together. So from a business outcome perspective, if you look at the right side of this slide here, right, our work spans across multiple industries, right? So just to mention a few of the industries that we have specialties in: finance, gaming and hospitality, healthcare, manufacturing, retail, and many more that are not necessary here. Our core industries that we have built engineering talent to understand the operational side of those businesses and align the technology solutions across their enterprises. And then the kind of most common type of areas where we're helping our customers here across these verticals is the design and execution of IT modernization strategies, right? So the business side of things to align IT. And then the integration of hybrid cloud infrastructures and data platforms, right? In today's world, obviously everything starts with data. It has to be hosted somewhere in the cloud. It has to be secure, and you have to have the intelligence of automation and AI to drive the governance and the optimization. Those are the highlights of who we are, what we do, right? So it's a combination of strategy and execution that allows us to help, enterprises like your organization, not just to adopt the technology, but also truly accelerate the transformation outcomes. So anyways, if there's more questions about Technologent and who we are, what we do, please put that in the chat. So next slide, please. So now let's talk about why Technologent and why NetBrain. And I like to talk about this partnership and this co-developed solution, right, to help our clients deliver end-to-end visibility, real-time observability, and automated resolutions across hybrid networks, right? In other words, we're empowering the enterprises to assess, secure, and optimize connectivity at scale from a single platform, from a single pane of view. That means continuous visibility across hybrid multi-vendor networks, real-time diagnostics, and automated remediation from the edge to the core. So we're actually taking action in those solutions. So think about it from a feature set of live maps, auto diagnostics, and intent-based automation. Again, we're empowering the enterprise to assess, secure, and optimize connectivity at scale, right? So with that said, I'm going to transition, Paul, to you here and have you kind of start here on your team and the solution.
Thank you, Danny. So, good morning or afternoon, everybody. Paul Russo here. I'm Director of Enterprise Operational Observability here at Technologent, working closely with the Secure Connectivity team, a few of which are on this call today. So we have Chris Schaus, Senior Director of Secure Connectivity. We have Joe Shen, Practice Director of Secure Networking, and Luke Slyman, Practice Director of Mobility and IoT. So with these folks, We have deep expertise, decades of experience, and many outcomes to that. So really what we're looking at here, we're here with NetBrain, right? Technologent as, a premier integrator for, cutting edge solutions in these enterprise environments. We're really seeing a challenge today in environments with siloed data, right, without context. We're looking at high MTTR, right, mean time to resolution, and in the network space, we look at MTTI, right, which is mean time to innocence. It's always the network's fault until proven otherwise, and really this is not looking at the user experience in the forefront with a traditional monitoring solution. Where we excel now in the space is looking at, with enterprise observability, keeping that customer experience front and center and putting that data in context. So, when I started in IT, we looked at, kind of boasting to my friends that aren't in the space of like, we get to work in our pajamas sometimes. But what you don't remember or don't realize at the time is you kind of have to work in your pajamas sometimes, right? We're the ones dealing with outages in the middle of the night or changes, and they're cumbersome, and we're relying on other teams and a lot of manual process. And what we're trying to move towards today, and what we're helping many enterprises with, is moving towards a more proactive and resilient environment with tools like NetBrain that power that. And ultimately, we need smarter tools, right? So that we can enable proactive delivery of services, self-healing, and even increased uptime, ultimately, right? Customer experience should stay the focus. So with that, we're going to move. We really look at also supporting the hybrid environment, which I'm pretty sure there are very few organizations left today that do not have somewhat of a hybrid environment with that increased complexity that requires those smarter tools. So really, I want to focus for a moment on what is observability versus monitoring. Monitoring is data, right, that we look at not in context. So we're looking at CPU metrics, throughput, those kind of things. It's knowing that this is a 10 gig link, it's being oversaturated. We need to fix this. Where observability comes in is we're having a degraded user experience, right? We're having guests that are having a problem checking into a hotel. We're having issues in the warehouse with getting barcode scanning, batch completion in time, or missing data. And putting those monitoring metrics into context gives us a better picture, right? NetBrain helps excel at that. With the increasing, again, complexity of the hybrid cloud, there also comes a need for better observability and visibility from a security perspective, because the security landscape is ever increasing, it seems like. We hear about attacks, I think, every day, right? New vulnerability. And with these observability tools that we leverage, especially with NetBrain, we're getting this enriched data to where we can provide that contextual view, not only to our operations teams, but to security teams as well, to enable us to not only react better, but to become proactive in our posturing. So today we're talking about continuous assessment, right? With that, there's a life cycle here that's on the slide. You can read through this, but ultimately what it comes down to is, let's look at, see what we need to monitor, right? What we need to observe. We need to look at what's normal, what's not normal. We need to get alerts on it when it's not normal. And then we need to fix it, right? So with the remediation steps specifically, we're looking at automation, and NetBrain is fantastic for this. And we have seen a lot of success with our customers in using the NetBrain runbooks in order to provide that automation that was typically done manually, right? So going back to the pajamas, right? If we're getting up in the middle of the night to do something that could be automated, it'd be great to not have to get up and just be informed in the morning. So with all this going on here, right, in terms of looking at NetBrain, why NetBrain, why another tool, right? We're really looking at the maturity of our organizations from an observability perspective and seeing where we're at today, where our customers are at today, and looking at where they can be, where we would like to see them become, so that they can become more proactive. And really, this maturity life cycle is something where we do see a lot of organizations that have great automation. We do have organizations that you may have really great SOPs, right? But there's still a lot of manual process there. Uh, with the solutions that we provide, powered by NetBrain, we do allow for a lot of that consolidation of effort and that repeatable effort to be able to be automated, and ultimately reducing that downtime that we're looking at, increasing uptime and reducing the complexity in actually responding to events. So with that, I'm not going to do death by slides today. We are going to hand over to our friends over at NetBrain here. So Ryan, I know you have a few slides as well, some use cases. So welcome, Ryan.
Yeah, thanks, Paul. Ryan Couch, CMO of NetBrain here. A privilege to be with the Technologent team and this community of network, security, and operational heroes. If you want to hit that next slide there, I'll show you. Our passion for 20 plus years has been all about building incredible, innovative, and problem-solving technology, empowering folks like on the call today, right? Helping you capture your unique insights and accelerate your business outcomes now with agentic AI intelligence powering human outcomes, right? You can see the results there. As you mentioned, MTTR going down, uptime going up for some of the top organizations in the world. We're privileged to power 2,500 customers over that 20 years. 1/3 of the Fortune 100 relies on us, and 1/3 of the Fortune 500 relies on us. Gartner has mentioned us 7 times in their reports this year, including the recent Agentic NetOps report that's making so many waves. But at the end of the day, no network is too small or too large to drive the kind of outcomes that we're looking for. Your network drives your business. So do you have visibility on everything's going on? Can you have one single pane of glass, observability to take action, auto remediate, auto compliance, assess everything going on? That's what we're here to do, of course, with our great friends in Technologent. So I'm going to pass it over to my friend and colleague, Brian Howard, who's going to walk you through some stories. Before we get into the tech, let's talk about real use cases, real pain points that led to real solutions and real savings, right? In this market and economy, everybody's looking to get more efficient. And that's some of what Brian's going to show us in the next few slides. So take it away, my friend.
Awesome. Appreciate you, Ryan. Okay, yeah, so on the next slide, let's start off with a story. So I've got 3 stories to share with you. So there's kind of 3 different customer pains that we'll go through, and these are all real stories. Did anonymize the customer name, but the first one is a customer pain of compliance and security failure. So what happened here with this large consumer packaged goods company was they failed the network compliance check because Telnet was found on the network. They had to hand check 6,000 devices. Can you imagine, as a leader, having to have that conversation with your team to go hand check 6,000 devices? It's a big time spreadsheet exercise, very manual, 1-by-1 devices. The next thing is they set up a NetBrain no-code automation. So with NetBrain, they had the capability to say, listen, it is an important check, but it's not something that we want to do manually. Let's just take the things that we know we want to look for, and let's automate that with NetBrain, with no code. And then now, and not only did they never have to repeat that exercise again of hand checking 6,000 devices, but now they have that set up proactively and preventatively, and they check for that every single night. Imagine, it's always interesting actually when I tell this story. I tell people, imagine the second check. Imagine you make your team go check 6,000 devices again, and they find nothing wrong. Imagine the number of months and the number of hours. So it's a really painful thing. So next story. So that one was on compliance and security failure. This one is really interesting. I just heard this one at our sales kickoff. We actually hired the person who solved this problem. So isn't that fun, right? You get to make a difference. You get a neat job. So the customer pain here, though, was he had a major network issue. And so what happened was they had a massive application outage. They used NetBrain. They did have NetBrain, but they weren't using the automation part yet. But they were able to at least troubleshoot the problem with NetBrain. So that was good. But they found out the firewalls, although they were set up in a failover pair, they had the same backend network connection. And so when that device failed, both firewalls in the pair went down. And it was a gigantic gigantic, costly outage for them. It's really probably, $10 million was that number. So clearly they said, okay, well, we got to use the automation side of NetBrain, right? Not just the mapping side. So good, tough lesson, but okay. They set up a NetBrain preventative automation now to look for that kind of problem. And they immediately, here's the kicker, okay? They found 7 other ticking time bombs, you guys. 7 others where you had, I think they call that dual homed or something. I'm not real technical, but the situation where they paid for double firewalls, they actually set them up correctly, and then they had that single point of failure in the back end. So they found 7 other examples, and they really solved a potential disaster. Now every network, they set this up as an automation, and it's preventatively checked every single day, and that's a priceless transformation. So I want you guys to think about during the demo from Yvonne in a minute, when you guys think about the issues that we're discovering and the observability that Paul talked about, think about being able to prevent problems. A few minutes of no code, and then wow, we can check for this thing every hour, every minute, every day, that kind of thing. So think about this kind of problem avoidance, whether that's a security compliance or a network availability type issue, okay? And then the last story for me is this one regarding ticket resolution. So one of the popular things that we can help with is helping you speed up your MTTR, MTTI, like Paul was talking about. But this particular customer is a kind of a biotech sort of customer, but they had voice over IP call quality issues reported sort of around the world, actually, multiple sites. And the call issue represented 200 tickets per year. Apparently, Ryan's team member Val sat down with them to learn all this, but it's about 1,200 hours per year in time lost because of those 200 voice over IT tickets per year. Next bullet there. There we go. They connected their service desk. Maybe it's ServiceNow, maybe it's Jira. We're agnostic. We don't care what they have. But they connected their service desk to NetBrain. And when a voice ticket came in, NetBrain was actually set up to where it'll go troubleshoot just like a person automatically. So 60, 70 issues at the same time, doesn't matter. 100 issues at the same time, no matter what the problem is, the IT ticket automation. Because if you think about it, a lot of the issues that you guys deal with out there, they typically go and they say, let's check the network, right? And or even if it's a security issue, let's go make sure the network is secure, right? So how do you make sure that instead of waiting for the human hours and the human attention to be able to go do those types of checks, service desk or a security issue or otherwise, how do you make sure that's fast and it's scalable? To do dozens of issues at the same moment? That's NetBrain, and that's ticket integration. You can also integrate that with your Datadog or with your Splunk, whatever tools you have, so that alert happens no matter where that comes from, and then troubleshooting or security investigation happens lightning speed. All right, so the result of this, and this is my last comment, but they had a 96% average reduction in voice ticket troubleshooting from 6 hours that they had logged, and they studied this, down to 30 minutes on average per ticket. So just a fabulous outcome. So we're super excited to be part of your exploration and part of your education. Of course, we'd love to help Technologent really have that discussion with you guys and make a difference together in your business and in your career. This is a very exciting transformation on multiple levels for you. So with that, I'll pass it over to my good friend Yvonne for your demo, and we appreciate you guys hopping on.
Yvonne, you're on mute there, sir. All good.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
All good.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. I was saying that my name is Ivan Uribe, of course. And I'm very excited about what I'm going to show today because it's a combination of what we have done in the past months with Technologent, as well how we are heading to the future, right? So our foundation is our digital twin, right? So I'm going to start with that because it's how we build everything from the bottom, right? So one of the main things that we help Technologent and Technologent helps us as well is to understand challenges for customers. And one of those challenges is regarding visibility, mapping, documentation, and just to know where you have everything located and how things are connected to each other is fundamental, right? To understand your design, to be able to troubleshoot faster, to be able to redesign your network, and to be able just to take better decisions, right? So I'm going to show you the outcome, and then I'm going to show you how we build it, right? So I want to show this nice map because it's a very traditional network that you can find out there, right? Nowadays, when you have a multi-vendor network, right? You're no longer tied to one single vendor. You would like to have redundancy at the vendor level as well. So here we have, for example, one data center built from Arista switches, right? And you can see it's a very clean and easy way to visualize layer 2 connectivity between devices in a spine leaf architecture that NetBrain have predefined as a layout. And you can see as well that we have a combination of firewalls. So in this case, I have a Fortinet, right? And we have as well on one of our enterprise sites, an FTD from Cisco and a different technologies as well, such as Juniper devices as well in one of our enterprise sites. So the bottom line here and the message is we're not limited to a specific vendor. We want you to see everything. We want you to have the same feeling if you take a look on one of these devices and you want to find quickly something in regard to the configuration or the data tables, right? Or if you want to something different, way different, which is the cloud, right? So you know, and everyone knows there is a big gap as well from when you go from on premises to the cloud because everything changed, right? So you need to understand how things are working in the cloud, how you can consume that data without even logging to the GUI, because sometimes in the cloud you need to do some PowerShell commands to retrieve some information. Well, guess what? NetBrain has done everything for you already. So in the same way I was looking on the Juniper device, I can go and take a look on my VPC on AWS. I don't need to go to any separate GUI. I can retrieve information from here. It's very well organized. If I'm looking for a routing perspective, I can see everything organized for me. And if we look actually at the raw data of this, it's just a lot of like a JSON and Python, a lot of lines everywhere, right? So NetBrain already parse this information and give it to you ready to consume. And when I say it's ready to consume, is because everything in NetBrain is stored. You can get access to data that has been in our system for the last 6 months, right? So if you want to compare your routing table, your ARP for one of those features that you refresh in one location and now you don't find a camera or an access point where it was connected, well, NetBrain can help you to go back in time and take a look on that information. And with that information in mind, you can take a next step ahead and recover, right? Something that's simple. Okay. Hopefully that was a quick overview of our mapping and visibility, right? But how we build these topologies is important to understand as well the simplicity of how we drive this inner system. So you can tell me, Ivan, I already have a nice spreadsheet of all my sites and IP addresses and devices, so I don't need NetBrain. Well, 90% of those spreadsheets usually are outdated because, let's be honest, we constantly change the network. We constantly are evolving with the technologies. So it's part of the nature, right? So it's very hard to keep track of that information. And NetBrain allows you, just by using a single IP, as in my case right here on the screen, I can start a discovery, right? We also have the option to scan an IP range. So if you tell me I have these spreadsheets, let's use those spreadsheets, right? We don't have to spend more time figuring out what you have. If you have the spreadsheets, let's use NetBrain and let's enforce those spreadsheets to make sure what you have there is actually accurate, right? So now we can see live discovery, which is crawling into your network, right? And you can tell it's discovering devices not only for a specific vendor, it got to discover your firewall from different vendors such as Fortinet and Juniper, some Arista switches, Juniper, and so on, right? And we are not even yet to the 1 minute mark, right? It's only 45 seconds and we have discovered already 72 devices. So we can discover up to 2,000, 3,000 devices in less than 30 minutes or around 45 minutes as well, I can say top. So you can tell that it will give you a very comprehensive list of your devices and it will discover something else even behind those devices that you probably think were there, right? Okay, so that being said, like, okay, our discovery is done. What is next? You can create a site hierarchy of those devices. And you can tell me, well, that's very easy, right? I already know what my devices are. Well, the cool thing about creating a site hierarchy is when we create a site, it's not just a simple site with a bunch of devices. In the back end of NetBrain, when you create a site, a layer 2, a layer 3, DMVPN, a VXLAN map are automatically created for you. So you can something to start working with, right? So think of NetBrain as a canvas, and you have a bunch of colors, and you just throw all the colors. Well, NetBrain organize those colors and make a nice picture, a nice painting, right? That's how I see this, because it saves a ton of time. So I want to show you this, but the real how you consume it is when you are working on your desktop, right? So this was a map that I create for my entire network. But I can go here to my sites, and the same hierarchy that we created is already here. But this contains the information that I fill out as part of the discovery, right? So if I navigate, for example, to one of the data centers, and I click on View Detail, it's giving us the context of that specific location only. And this map, when you open it, it will take out it will pull out the layout that you previously predefined. Like in this case, it's a spine leaf architecture. So if I click on Open Sitemap, there we go. So we have this by default, right? I haven't done anything at this point. Just by opening the sitemap, NetBrain organizes these devices. I can go further, of course, and make it look prettier. Maybe I want to send it to my boss or change share a design with Technologent, of course, and vice versa. So we can go beyond this and maybe organize these devices, right? I can group these devices, for example, and say, you know what, by design, these are my H devices. Okay, cool. And this is rich that you can change color, format, anything that you may think, right? Also, you have a wide set of options about stencils. So if you want to go beyond, right, and add like a cloud or something, it's something that you can see. We provide all this already, and it's just drag and drop and put it on the map, and it's ready to go. So just to add something else here, I can also, as well as part of this map, export it. So it's quite important because you can export it to a Visio that you can work with those stencils. And I remember when I used to do a lot of designs, it was very hard to find stencils out there. Well, NetBrain already have hundreds and hundreds of stencils that you can use in your designs as well. You can export this to a Word document. And we're going to talk about what information is in a Word document in another kind of example, because it's different, way different and more powerful. So I'm going to show you that in a second. Okay, so as I said, this map was created by default, but NetBrain go beyond as well and create another view of that map. So it created a layer 2 view. So this by default is the layer 3 map, where we can see IP addressing and neighborships. But if I switch to my layer 2, I can see interconnections at the physical layer and the layer 2 level, right? Which has my interconnections between my leaf switches. So a lot of technical details. Which, by the way, these maps are dynamic. If I hover my mouse at any of these interfaces, it will show me a snapshot of that configuration. And I can just click on full config to see the entire config of the switch, or on the pop stick to get that snapshot only, save the map, or document it for specific purposes, right? Very powerful. All right. So now let's do, we're at this point, we have like a part of the assessment done, right? We have the visibility, we have the inventory. But what if I can use my AI as well, right, to retrieve information from those devices and organize it in a nice way? We have something that we call action plans. It's a prompt that you predefine, and you can define the input and output of the prompt. And the quality, the input of the quality is proportional to the output of the quality, right? So we can just ask the AI, you know what? Let's do an inventory planning on map devices. It's not a simple inventory when I'm gonna go and give you a list of serial numbers and software versions and device types. In my case, I'm asking as well, below each table, generate a percentage breakdown of device models and software versions. What this is going to help me with is I can start planning, oh, one of my switches has a different software version and it's the same model. Why? Maybe I need an upgrade. Maybe I need a better roadmap to plan my upgrades and refreshes as well, right? So here we can see in a live way, right? AI went to the device itself and retrieved the configuration and other show commands. We see the original data. We can hide this, but I really like to see it. It's like a magic, right? And then after a couple of seconds, it's gonna break it down for me, and I can export it to a Word. I can ask him, hey, change the language to German, or give me a nice executive summary to send an email to my boss. So imagination is kind of the limit right now, right? Okay, so just to show you the results, and I was saying this is first portion is like a, yeah, you can see this in the past, but this is the extra mile when we talk about planning, right? Like, okay, from your Cisco software footprint, I see 10 devices, we represent the 91% running this version, and 2 devices running different versions. So if we compare this with the top one, we see 2 devices are CSR routers. So just from here, I can spot that one of my routers has a different version and it's an older one. Why? I need to make sure that my CSR behaves the same way, have the same capabilities. So it's just much better to have the same version, right? And as well, it catches as well other vendors. So in this case, Fortinet, in this case, I only have one, right? But you can tell that the powerful of these checks just by input a prompt. And it's 100% confident that you're going to get the right information because NetBrain already discovered the network. Remember when I said the quality of the input? That's the input, it's NetBrain. Also, as part of assessments, is quite important being compliant with some standards, right? And we can mention some like NIST, CIS, PCI, right, and others. We can use AI as well before jumping to our automations, but we can use AI as well to perform an assessment in our behalf. And look at how simple it is as well. So I can tell, hey, for this NIST assessment, I want to check these 8 items, right? Check for telnet that is not enabled, and this resonates with Brian's use case, right? With that customer that has telnet enabled, and you can just use by question, interrogate my network and tell me which devices are vulnerable, right? Second check SSH, SNMP version, and so on, right? And you can tell that I'm not being very technical. I'm not telling use this show command, this how to extract the routing configuration. I'm not doing anything because NetBrain already knows that info. So it uses AI to organize and rapidly process all the information. And look at that beauty, right? So in seconds as well, I want to show this. It went through all devices, retrieving show configurations, config files, show commands, and then at the end, give you a nice breakdown of results about, hey, all your devices have telnet enabled. Yes, it's a lab environment. I apologize. I have to take care of the environment more often. SSH as well have enabled. Some of those don't have the right SNMP version and purpose, so you can see that spot those. For Fortinet devices, it's a firewall, so most of the firewalls are well protected in regarding those checks by default, right? But it found some unused ports, meaning that some ports are up, or I'm sorry, are down, but there's nothing connected to it. So this is quite powerful. And we can see what AI excels for, summary of the results. Total devices, compliance issues identified, and importance of addressing these issues, right? So awesome. Hope this is being very clear. And as we mentioned at the beginning, if you have any questions, put in the chat, and I personally will follow up some technical questions if you may have. Okay? All right, so let's take to the next level. Hope you're ready. So what we have developed with Technologent is the use of runbooks. And a runbook, you might be familiar with the concept of runbook, right? It's just a sequence of nodes that you can execute actions against a device or an element. In this case, I can do multiple things, or runbooks are quite powerful. You can execute CLI commands, run some trace routes, apply an overall health view, which is extract SNMP information to see if the device is up and running. So a lot of things. But what we did is let's templatize those runbooks, right? So I can create something for this map specifically, right? So I want to do this like a Technologent assessment, right? And I can select a template that we have created. So we realize that this is a Cisco network, right? I have Cisco Nexus, iOS devices, a Fortinet. So I can take one of these predefined assessments. And I have seen the ones that Technologent built, and let me tell you, those are very elaborated and well designed. So you're gonna get a very nice output of that assessment, right? So here we can see that what I have templatized already. So multiple checks, even text, right? Like you can input a text. So you are standardizing these checks across your entire organization if you want, right? So for every time that someone runs this template, it's gonna be concise. It's gonna be powerful and at the same time gonna be standardized, so you don't take deviations. So here we have several sections, and I want to pay attention on something very critical, which is the device column, because NetBrain, based on the map, matches what automation was relevant to the device, and that's why I only have 2 that matches with my Cisco iOS check for CPU, 10 that matches with my memory state check for Cisco Nexus, because that's the amount of devices that I have in this network. So it's smart enough to don't just run automations and nothing, and don't get nothing in return, right? Because identify what is relevant and what is not. Okay, so that being said, I can go through all these notes, but it's a lot of information. But we're gonna do an assessment right now for multiple checks. So I'm gonna do run all, and it's gonna start sequentially going to these devices and going to these intents. So this manually take you weeks, if not a month, of retrieving information, parsing it in a way to maybe put it in a notepad, in a spreadsheet, then searching for information. And then after you're done with that piece, it start the real work, which is comparing with standards, comparing with the last time that you run this assessment. And here we just did it in less than a minute, right? You can see it stopped blanking, meaning that some of the automations are done and some of them are already giving us some results. So this network is quite healthy, but I can see actually for the routing protocols, we got an alert here for one of the BGP checks. So here we found something that either we can see the results on the map, or the way that I really like to see it is using the diagnosis tree. The diagnosis tree is a very good way to see all the work that have been done just by one simple check, right? We did like 30 checks in less than a minute, but here you can see like we did it for all these devices at the same time. We execute some specific commands. We have some logic behind to capture that information and create a diagnosis. And here's a clear representation of or health that, hey, these 2 devices has something going on, right? I can go back, and if you want to see what is this about, I can just click on the alert, and you can see this border leaf number 1 switch had some neighbors in downstate for sure. I can see as well the success messages. Maybe nothing is, not all is bad. We have some BGP neighbors for devices at intent level good, or I can switch to my device level, right? And see, for example, these 2 guys has different alerts. One neighborship is down, but the others are good. And I have a warning. So this is as well more powerful than just have a simple monitoring tool that tells you it's up and down. This one can go beyond and monitor specific assets of your devices or your protocols. In this case, hopefully you can see here, I can see in on the last portion of this comment, a previously and a current number. This is checking the prefixes that we are receiving in a BGP neighborship, and it's telling you, hey, by the way, you had 184, but currently it's 213. Is that expected or not? So it's a warning that you may know, but this is something that can go beyond of just a simple up and down monitoring. Okay. Awesome. All right. So yeah, we did a lot of these checks. I'm gonna give you as well this an overview of code and design rules. And this is actually very, very powerful because NetBrain allows you to decode. I used to call it like the DNA of your network, right? Because if you go to 10 different devices, they have similar configuration, but as well there is a slightly difference, right? So you have to decode those differences and make sense of those. NetBrain allows you to go to one device and let's say, for example, find that the BGP is enabled. Well, BGP usually goes with a roadmap, usually goes with a prefix list to block some traffic. Well, what if NetBrain can tell you, hey, this BGP resource is attached to all other resources and SIMs that are critical. You want to enforce that golden rule? Yes, go ahead and do it. And then NetBrain can catch those problems. So in this case, I can show you here, right? My BGP configuration for this specific neighbor, have a roadmap, apply it, and I can tell that at this moment, everything looks good, right? So the same golden configuration is my current configuration. So I can tell that, yeah, my golden rules are enforced. I'm confident that my network is behaving healthy. And even I can document this further to provide more context to my group. So you see in the bottom, I'm telling the prefix list matches specific subnets, etc. And BGP neighbor will not receive the specific subnets. So you are transforming NetBrain as well in a source of knowledge for your team. Okay. All right. And this is as well a new addition. And I can say that Technologent and NetBrain work on this as well because it was a need about documenting all these findings, right? And an easy way to document and focus sometimes in a specific issue, right? So this network document node, there are three main steps. One is that you can select what information is relevant for you. If you notice it, when I was showing you some of this, HSRP is empty. I don't have an HSRP because this is a spine leaf architecture, so HSRP is not relevant anymore. So I can tell from here, like, well, that's not relevant for me, so I'm gonna exclude it, right? So no, I don't need to export that info, right? So you're customize your report. Also, I can go beyond and say, well, as part of my report, what I want is a screenshot of the map. I want to create a VC of the map as well. And I want to create an inventory of those devices by hardware, by software. And I want to get all the intent results, either of alerts or success. I want to know everything. So I want to document this in a very deep way. And then we're going to use AI to make it look nicer and cleaner. Okay. So we're going to close this for now. I'm going to click create. And it will take probably less than 30 seconds to create a full documentation across all these checks that we performed, right? And then when the document is done, we have an option to enhance the documentation, right? Okay, so in the meantime, I will take advantage of this. Oh, well, it wasn't too much, right? It's really fast. Documentation is there, but before download it, you see this option here, AI document. If I go there, I can have some prompts, save it to reorganize all my documents. So this is a preview of the original document. See the nodes, the text nodes are still there, and it's gonna show you the results, but it's a lot of results, right? So maybe this is good for the technical side, right? I want to keep a copy of this because I want everything documented for an auditing purposes or just for my information. But this is not something maybe that you're gonna send to upper management or the CTO, right? So you can tell, you know what, let me do an executive summary report. So NetBrain AI, you are an expert in network analysis, tasked with generating an executive summary report based on a complete network assessment. And I given exactly the instructions, right? I want this title page, an executive summary highlighting the problems, Give me even a major findings, like a top 3-5 findings that affect uptime, performance, security, recommendations, immediate, near-term, long-term. So this is crazy, right? So you can have a roadmap for your network in seconds. I'm gonna click on create document. And let's give it a couple seconds. And when I ask the panelists, do we have any questions in the chat? Just to make sure that we're good.
Yvonne, I actually have a question for you. How long would that have taken you if you had to do that task in the past, which I'm sure you have, right? Being in network engineering.
Yeah.
Why don't I take that answer right there? So
Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Go,
It's a
Chris.
lot, and usually these type of tasks, these are month-long engagements, and Yvonne just did this in the last 20 minutes, not even that.
Yeah. I personally did assessments in my former life. I was a consultant as well, and it was like as you said, weeks or months, and and I want to lie. My approach was first drawing everything in a whiteboard. So I have to draw the maps and then finding connections, and that took me at least 2-3 days, and we just did it in less than 20 minutes. So it's saving you a ton of time, right? And at the end, it creates a final output, like I'm gonna show on the screen. The only thing that I did differently here is added NetBrain logo to make it look like a teamwork. But this is something that Technologent already have as a template, right? So you can get this kind of outputs immediately. So let's analyze a little bit of this document. So let me zoom in. Hopefully it looks good. We're talking about 22 pages, right? It's not too bad, but it created a Visio file. Awesome. We remember that we select, hey, as part of the Visio as well, add an image of the map. It did it, and it only not did it for one of the maps. It did it for all the maps that were contained on the same structure. Remember that I mentioned by default creates a layer tree, but also you can create other pages. So export everything. And then we go to our hardware inventory, right? I specify as part of my hardware inventory, I want to have host name, device type, serial number, site. Software inventory, same structure. And then we go to the executive summary. Remember that yellow node? So it's already there, so just export it. But let's go to the fun part, the results. CPU state check, simple, right? For Cisco iOS, we only have 2 devices, CPU usage is normal. But then we go to more advanced checks, like duplex settings, match it for all interfaces with neighbor devices. So these are doing checks from one device to the neighbor. And then we can go to the one that I really, really love, because this network, as I said, is quite healthy, so we can see memory percentage. But I have as well some issues regarding of NIST. Remember that we did something with AI? Well, we take a step ahead here, and using our automations, or as we call it, golden assessment library, we have hundreds of automations that assess multiple vendor configurations. And as well with technology knowledge, engineering knowledge, they can tell us like, okay, usually I did all these 10 checks. Well, let's do all these 10 checks, right? And now we can tell you like, okay, best practices for, let's take a look on my first router. You don't have you have SSH, but it's not the right version. NTP status is unsynchronized. VTY lines, again with Brian's use case, because he loved that use case because it's quite important, right? You have to have your devices protected. This one, telnet is enable. Well, actually, telnet is disable, right? But it go beyond and check if there is an access list as well. So you can tell that it's not simple checks. It's actually very concise. All right. And let's go to the bottom when I have the AI generated summary for you. And here we can see that assess based on the results is giving us a fair thumbs up, right? A status fair. The network is operational but requires immediate attention in specific areas to maintain performance. Major findings, recommendations, immediate, near term, long term, conclusion, and suggested next steps. So here's when Paul and the team are gonna sit down with you guys and see, you know what, let's make your network a little bit more than fair, right? We want to be as healthier as possible, right? That's an objective that every engineer has. And if we go back here, I just want to make sure that I show you that I did it live. I have it ready just in case it takes some time. And actually now it's giving me a different output here. Oh, this actually is another part of the network. That's why. And this is giving me a 85 or 100. So we're better in this part of the network. Or Dallas data center is good help, but with some areas that need attention. But we get the same output, right? Recommendations for immediate, near term, and long term. And conclusions, right? So all this, you can download it, you can save it, and you can work with, you can run this again, by the way, like a week later. You don't have to delete this data. This data lives there, right? And I can go back a week later after fixing some of these problems, rerun, and now get a comparison about results. Because if you see on the right side, I can analyze my last results or results in the last 24 hours and days and so on, right? So this becomes more about a journey for you to fix your network, to make sure that it's healthy, and always make sure that it's in the best possible state. Awesome. Okay, questions so far? Any questions in the chat? Or Chris, Paul, you want to add something here? Because I know you guys work with me on this a lot.
I was going to say a few things around that, Yvonne. One is, the partnership that we have has been excellent, right, in developing this solution. I can see that, NetBrain development does care in the way in which this has come to life over the last few years, even. And, one thing that I think is extremely powerful that, maybe some folks are thinking about here, but I'll call it out, is the automation perspective of this, right? The repeatability you're building out, introducing standards into an environment is extremely critical, right? To an organization not only being effective, but laying that foundation for them to evolve and to grow. The reporting portion of that is huge, and also being able to make sure that we're able to produce reports in a timely manner for compliance, for audit purposes. And really the big thing that, I don't know, when we're in limited time here, is the integrations you have with other ITSM solutions, to where when these health checks do run on a scheduled basis, if you do have them configured that way, they can create tickets for you that are actionable with context, so that the engineer that's taking that on can act on it quickly and appropriately, and they're not having to go and dig for the data themselves. And that's, again, all powered by NetBrain. So I think that's a huge piece. I know in my career, I would have loved to have had this in some of the environments I've been in that have been just not an enjoyable experience, but this is a game changer.
Yep. And I'm glad that you mentioned that. I can stall 2 more minutes before passing over back to you guys. But yeah, what you saw about AI and network automations, now combined with troubleshooting, AI-driven troubleshooting, I will say, reduce MTTR at the minimum, right? So, for example, here is a ticket that I was working before. I can go here, and you see the description is very vague, right? And it's usually happened on that with our end users. Like a specific here is that ordering portal is down, please investigate. Impacting company revenue, it's a step 1 ticket. Okay, nice. But NetBrain, that ticket come in at 12, 15, 30 something, and by 40 seconds later, it triggered a rule for that specific issue or application or portal, right? It could be whatever you want. Create an internal ticket on NetBrain, and this is the beautiful part, NetBrain AI Insights. So everything that we have seen regarding automations, regarding what AI can use, NetBrain is now triggered that AI to troubleshoot in your behalf. So imagine that you take off for the weekend and this ordering portal goes down at 3 in the morning, it's a Saturday. And the time that you have an engineer, the on-call engineer, wake up and ready to go, at least it's gonna be an hour, right? And NetBrain already did all this troubleshooting on your behalf. So for example, here, it's even asking us like, what are the common troubleshooting steps for the down ordering portal? Let's check CPU for all the Nexus devices. Let's trigger an automation that is called ordering portal stability. And let's see if we find something. Key findings is a critical piece. The ordering portal stability validation triggered these two devices. This one has a deviation from the approved baseline. When we mentioned this in the beginning a lot, baseline is important because it's how your network should behave. If something changed, we need to remedy it as soon as possible. So it's detecting that deviation. It's even telling me what line is extra line right now, and it's giving me like it's a possible asymmetric path detected. And along with that detection, I gotta go and do more checks, right? I'm gonna check memory, CPU, and all devices. And at the end, we can tell time here. It was like a what? 15. 4 minutes later, it found the root cause of the problem, and you're ready to take from here to use NetBrain. Continue the check or just validate that what the AI found is okay. And with this, I'm gonna wrap up, I swear. You just open the intent, you found the issue, right? And this is as well some of the beauty part. You have remediation now as well. So NetBrain detect what line is extra on the configuration. I can tell you here is that line. And I know because I'm an engineer, but what if this is a knock engineer that is a junior, it just gets started and it's having his worst day on live because that's down. You can click remediation and NetBrain is gonna give you exactly the lines to be removed. Okay, so with that, I only have nothing to say that I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today, and I'm gonna pass it over to my technology team.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Yvonne. Fantastic demo. It never gets old doing these with you. They're always exciting. So just a quick recap here before we pass it back over to Danny to close us out. Want to make sure that everyone is aware of a lot of these benefits here that we're talking about, and in Technologent, powered by NetBrain in partnership with NetBrain, is able to provide to your organization, right? You've seen the automation, compliance, readiness capabilities, the dynamic mapping, proactive problem detection. It's all there, right? And honestly, this is one of the best platforms from a network observability perspective and automation perspective that we've used. So, it's a privilege to be here with NetBrain to present these solutions and really help empower your organization to move forward. So with that, Danny, if you want to close us out.
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you to all the presenters. Thank you to all the participants. Thank you for staying engaged. As a next step, we encourage you to connect with us, right? Let's continue the conversation, whether it's exploring a deeper assessment of your environment, right, using the solution, or discussing automation strategies around tailored demos, right, type solutions. As Paul and team here, Yvonne, were saying, right, the automation, visibility, observability side of things, the AI intelligence layer, right, is exactly what this solution provides. We'd love to kind of have more of a deeper dive. So please reach out to us. Again, we welcome forward to the partnering with you and the journey towards your greater observability experience. So thank you again. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.